A little quicker than I thought I did. Actually, I think I just did the same video pick. No, I haven't. Okay, that's good. Hello, welcome to a brand new episode of 13 Days of Halloween. This is day 7, and I'm Dylan Lang. Nice to have you joining me here. For those who don't know, I have my own show called Dylan Knows. I do a show. I've been doing the show for 11 years on Saturday nights. And I've also created other shows, including the List Show, which is what this is a part of. And also Conversation with Myself, which is a show where I just talk about one topic. And I've got another one coming up probably in the new year called In Defense Of, where I'll be in defense of stuff that people don't like. And then also Cat. Also be doing my massive In Defense of Marvel Cinematic Universe sometime next year as well. Started off then. So we'll see how that all works out. But this is a special kind of thing I've been doing. I've been trying to do something that I've never done before, which is do a show every day of the week for 13 days. And I'm on day 7. So I started on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yep, so day 7. This one's going to be one of the fun ones, though. So I've done stuff about, and it's all Halloween, supernatural, horror sort of oriented stuff. Yesterday was my Stephen King adaptation list, and then I did a John Carpenter movie list and Tim Burton movie list, and the top 80 Halloween movies list, and they're all on my page. So if you made your way here, look around my page. I do have playlists. Look for Dylan Knows Volume 2. You can see all the previous episodes that I've done, as well as other episodes of my show. So there's that. So this is going to be a lot of fun. This is the top 20 supernatural beings / cryptids. So it's going to be a mix of supernatural beings who may or may not exist, and cryptids who are rumored to exist. And we're going to talk about, so they're all kind of mixed together. We'll discuss certain things about it. So we'll get all kinds of different views at it. We'll talk a little bit about it. So no matter what your belief system is, you could believe in all this stuff. You could believe in none of this stuff. But some of the stuff does exist. And I believe in some of the stuff, not necessarily all of it. But it's good, though. So this is day 7 of my 13 days of Halloween. So that's a lot of fun. My wife just came and got our stuff. So her stuff. So we're good. I'm going to drink some of my blood now. Oh, that's good squishy. So this is my list. And real quick, some rules for the list. This is my show, so I can make the rules. I can say whatever. I can do whatever I want. This is my list. These are my top 20 choices in what order I put them in. You may not agree with the order that I put them in, and that's okay. This is my opinion. You have your own opinion. Don't be a dick about it. If you want to make a comment on my page about the list, you can. Or if you want to do a response to it and say that I don't know what I'm talking about, and here's their list, hey, all for it, but this is my list. This is how I'm going to pick it. And again, the list is also fluid. If I did this list again next year, stuff might be moved around depending on just whatever. So it's not necessarily, this is not the end all be all for my list. I have put some stuff together, and I will explain that when I get to that. That's actually closer up to the top 10. I have some combination stuff, but I will talk about that and why I'm doing that. So there are some stuff that are similar, but are all kind of different, but are all sort of similar, sort of same family. So I just sort of put them all together as one thing. Again, this one is the top 20 supernatural beings and cryptids. For those who don't know, cryptids are like unknown creatures that people have seen out in the world, including Bigfoot, lake monsters, big giant cats, dinosaurs still existing, stuff like that. And then the supernatural stuff is stuff like demons and vampires and zombies and stuff like that, and ghosts and so on and so forth. So again, there's whole markets where they try to explain everything, and then they actually focus on ghost hunting and hunting for Bigfoot and hunting for aliens. And you see tons of these TikToks of like and reels, stuff like that, is like the scariest pictures ever taken, and a lot of them are fake news. And you can just tell some of the fake ones when, for whatever reason, they're driving at like midnight and they just got their camera going for no reason because you can't see anything. And then all of a sudden something pops up. They're like, oh, what's that? That sort of thing. And they're very bad acting at it. And so on and so forth like that. So this is going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to this and have one. So also in my lists, I always do an honorable mention as well, just because I like to talk. And I like to talk about extra stuff. Something that might not quite have made the top 20 in this case, but it's close enough. Now, this one is kind of the reason why it's my honorable mention and not on my list, even though it probably should be on my list. But the thing is, it's not technically kind of a supernatural or a cryptid. My honorable mention is creepy clowns. So I don't know if you remember way back in 2016. And I don't know if it was some sort of viral production thing for the new versions of it coming out. But right around that time, videos started surfacing of people dressed as clowns doing creepy things. A couple videos I recall off the top of my face. One was from a Ring camera or whatever, a closed caption camera on their porch. It's around Halloween. A dude dressed up as a clown sees the camera, knows exactly what he's doing, and destroys the person's pumpkins and stuff on the porch and stuff like that, but dressed as a clown. There's another video of someone taking a videotape outside his window at night, and there's just a clown looking into his house from across the street, just in silence, just standing there looking at it. Looking at the house. There's one where there's a guy dressed as a clown walking through a graveyard. There's one where there's these dudes on the road, and some of them probably were faked and said, hey, this whole viral thing going on, let's do our own. And so they got one of their buddies dressed up as a clown. They go into some sort of unknown area and then just have the clown go and chase after them, stuff like that. Clowns freak out people. Don't freak me out, but they do freak out people. And this was a big thing that came out around 2016. It seemed like that every week, every day, there seemed to be a new video of some person dressed up as a clown. Now, some of them obviously were to jump on the bandwagon of the viral photos and movies of these types of things. But some were just people who, for whatever reason, they feel power by freaking people out or scaring people. It gives them a thrill, a visceral thrill doing stuff like that. And there's tons of people that do that type of stuff all the time. It's not unusual. So the reason why it's honorable mention, as I said, is because these were actual people dressed up as clowns, standing, watching and stuff like that. And everybody has their memories of terrifying clowns, Pennywise, Terrifier, stuff like that. And Wayne Gacy, stuff like that. So you have people who are freaked out by clowns as it is already, but there's nothing supernatural about it. It's just a dick trying to be have power over you by trying to freak you out a little bit and try to scare you. And it's stupid, dumb sort of things. And there've been some other funny videos. There's this one where these two dudes come up in a Jeep and they see a guy dressed as a clown just standing with the balloons or whatever in this empty parking lot or whatever, and they have the headlights on him, and they start talking to him, say, hey man, what's going on? You doing all right? Everything's okay? And he's just standing there, and all of a sudden he drops the balloons and starts running, going, rah, and then the dude pulls out a gun, and that's where it stops. So that's a joke one, obviously. But and then there were other ones where after those went viral, there are people who were fighting back against the clowns. Again, I think it was probably people doing it to piggyback onto the viralness of them. Like there was one where a clown came running up to their car, so the people got out and beat the crap out of them, that sort of thing. So creepy clowns are my honorable mention. Again, not quite a supernatural being like Pennywise, and not quite a cryptid either. So just regular people being dicks. Now, before you don't believe in cryptids and stuff like that, just bear in mind that for the longest time, the panda bear was considered an unknown creature. People were saying they were seeing black and white bears in the woods of China, but no one had ever really gotten good pictures of them. But people said they kept claiming that they saw these creatures until one finally came and made their presence felt. And now we have now pandas. There are hundreds of new species of animals being discovered every day, every week, every year. That again were rumored to be around, but then no proof until they get the proof, that sort of thing. So in my mind, cryptids kind of do exist. They might just be unknown creatures that we haven't discovered yet and have decided that they don't want to be discovered. And they could again be, part of something else. We'll talk about that when we get to these ones. So let's start the list proper here, about the 10 and 11 minute mark in. Number 20 is the rake. The rake is more of a creepypasta sort of thing. It's honestly, I do not really believe in the being, and I think a lot of the videos are computer animated but it's like a creepypasta, which is when like it's like a new version of an urban legend, but there's like videos behind it. But we also know that it's pretty much done probably by computer people. But then, so that they created the rake, and then all of a sudden, all these new videos come out as like the rake in real life, so people know the rake is fake. But then all of a sudden, it's like, what's this on our roof, and what's this up here, and doing all that stuff. So the rake is kind of almost like a golem creature for the most part. So it'd be probably classified not as a cryptid, since it is a creepypasta. As I said, probably more of a creepypasta, supernatural sort of being. But the rake has been, and the reason why it's on the list number 20 is because most of these, the top 20, have been getting a lot of focus and information and looks at it and attention over the last 10, 20 years since the beginning of the century. So I figured to do that. But the rake, to me, I really don't believe that the rake exists. There are tons of videos out there. Just type in the rake and you'll see all kinds of videos, people claiming that it was real. Again, like the back rooms is a creepypasta thing. And that creature, giant robot thing that sounds like an air raid siren sort of thing. Siren Head, I think was his name, is another creepypasta sort of thing. That's all like computer generated stuff that people make videos out of and then treat them as real. And then people know they're not real, but then they make videos of them saying the rake in real life. So as I said, the rake is kind of this golem-like sort of creature that lives in the woods and is kind of creepy, pale, it really looks like a real life golem sort of thing. So that's why I put it at number 20. Number 19, we have the giant squid. And in this case, this would be more of a cryptid because I believe the giant squid exists. Now, I don't mean the giant squid as the one that we know exists right now, but these giant squids are the ones, the Leviathan ones, the ones that the Krakens, the massive Krakens, the ones we know Krakens exist also in real life. But these giant squids are the ones that you see pictures of in stories and other stuff as well, where they're overtaking complete boats. These giant squids that we have nowadays, they're not quite that we know exist. They're not quite this size. So the giant squids I'm talking about in this list are the really giant ones that take over, can seen latching on to people's boats and sinking them down. This is my kitty Pepper. He's going to be helping me out. So I put it higher than the rake, obviously, because the rake is kind of a creepypasta sort of thing. It doesn't really exist. But the giant squid, the massive giant squid, not the giant squid we know exists, is one that probably exists, but maybe not. It's sort of like the megalodon of squids. It might have existed at one time, but no one has seen it really since, except for some grainy pictures here and there or shadows or whatever. It doesn't get as much... Where's the cap to it? Oh, there it is. It doesn't get as much love as some of the other stuff, but there are still some videos out there that come out there. So giant squid's number 19. Number 18 keeps us in the water. And 18 brings us mermaids and mermen. Mermaids and mermen have been around since time began for the most part. They are part of history. They are part of ancient literature. Uh, Beings that live in the sea, half fish, half human. Disney made one of the most popular movies of all time called The Little Mermaid. Mermaids are, and Splash is another good mermaid movie and stuff like that. Cabin in the Woods has mermaids and mermen in it. Or actually has a merman in it. But mermaids have, as I said, have been around since people started going on the water. They sometimes combine them with sirens, which are beautiful women on rocks and stuff like that who sing beautiful sounds that draws your attention to them. And then when you get close, they come on and they kill you or drag you underwater or whatever. They're vicious, mean little creatures, but they are mostly in literature and movie stuff like that. They are considered half fish, half human. They're usually top half is human, the bottom half is fish, and the mermen and merwomen are naked on top. So you can see the mermaid's breasts, and the men look just like they're wearing, Speedos or whatever, but it's a fishtail. They usually have the long hair that covers the breasts, or in the case of the Little Mermaid, they have bikini tops on them or whatever. But mermaids, as I said, have been around since time began. And as I said, they're part of stories. They're part of lore. They're part of folklore, ancient texts. Some people claim that they are the descendants of Atlantis. They're the ones that evolved after Atlantis went under the water to survive. So they became these half fish, half human hybrids. And more recently, once the advent of photography and stuff like that came up, people were taking pictures of some stuff. And in those cases, the mermaids and mermen are not quite as attractive as they're made out to be in fictional stories. In a lot of these videos of mermaids and mermen, they're very grayish, blackish sort of skins, almost seaweed-esque sort of hair styling, sharp sharp teeth sort of things, and weird scrunchy faces, which if you are a human fish hybrid living in the ocean, these pictures that are shown of these darker, more vicious looking mermaids would probably be more realistic, since they're living in the water and they have to survive predators. So you make their skin darker so that they match with the darkness of the water, so they're not seen. If you had white, a pale white, gorgeous Little Mermaid girl with blonde hair, red hair, whatever, they would stand out in the middle of the dark ocean, and predators would come get them. So they evolve into sort of this, they look almost like fish, but they've turned into a human hybrid here as well. The merman in Cabin in the Woods is even creepier than that. Now, a lot of people believe that mermaid sightings are, what are they, like sea cows, that people mistake for mermaids because they do sort of look similar, sort of things, walruses or something like that. But mermaids and mermen are always going to be part of lore, particularly since a lot of people really loved Little Mermaid. I didn't, and that's just more from a story standpoint. The music is good, the animation is great, and the voice, Ariel Benson, is from Maryland, so you got to love that as well. But I have issues with the story. But we're not here to talk about Little Mermaid. We're here to talk about mermaids and mermen in general. So could there be a race of half human, half fish people living in the ocean? Sure, why not? Could they be descendants from Atlantis? Sure, why not? Could they be walruses or sea cows or whatever you want to call them? Yeah, probably. But as I said, I find it more interesting that in the lore, there are these gorgeous women, blonde hair usually, and they draw your attention, and then they kill you and drag you into the water. The pictures, I said, I find it fascinating. and again, would probably be more of a realistic if there were human fish hybrids. And whoever took those pictures, if they aren't weird, if they aren't real, which they could be, obviously, if they aren't real, they did their homework and realized, hey, you know what? We can't just show the Little Mermaid swimming around because that wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. So they actually thought about it and created. So again, I'm not saying that that's what it is, but it's a possibility, and the modern interpretation of it is probably a more realistic version of it. Mermaids and mermen are going to be in lore forever. People are going to keep doing stories and movies and stuff like that about them. You're going to study them in school because they're in the Iliad, they're in the Odyssey, excuse me. You know, Peter Pan, Splash, Little Mermaid, all kinds of stuff. So mermaids and mermen are number 18. Number 17 are angels. Now, this is another one where probably supernatural being, and not every religion has a belief in cherub angels, whatever. But the lore is out there again, and much like with mermaids and mermen, it's all kinds of different lore where you have the angels with the gorgeous white wings, no genitalia, who are the singers of God. Choir of angels scared the shepherds in the field at Christmas time, told them the Savior is born in Jerusalem, go find him, that sort of thing. And in movies, City of Angels, Nicolas Cage plays an angel who falls in love with a human and then gives up his angelicness to become human. And just angels in general seem to, as I said, always seem to have the gorgeous blonde hair, blue-eyed, white, unfortunately, racist sort of stuff, wings, stuff like that. And then you also have those, and then you also have the cherubs, who are like the Valentine's Day babies. But a lot of people also think that angels could be chubby babies with wings flying around also. And then also there have been angels who have been known to be similar to the mermaids and mermen, more of a creepy, unnatural look to them and not a human-esque look to them. And that's, again, kind of interesting. Angels can be any interpretation. And again, not every religion believes in an angelic choir. It's mostly the Christians. So people who claim to see angels talking to them very well could be. I don't know. I don't know exist. Or when we die, we turn into angels if we're good. That's also a possibility too. Don't know because I'm not dead. And we can't talk to the dead, even despite Ouija. You can't do that. But then you also have maybe the more realistic interpretation of what people think angels are with the term of guardian angel, where they believe that there are beings on this earth that we might not necessarily see, who help protect us, because crazy things happen. I think everybody has had something crazy happen to them. You just missed getting hit by a falling box, or a car who was speeding really quickly at the last second swerves out of your way and doesn't nail you, or you're falling asleep at the wheel while you're driving, you start to drift and something wakes you up. You could even make a case that when you are trying to get to work, but stuff you can't find your keys, or you forgot your lunch and you got to do that real quick, and it's delaying you and you're getting all pissed because you're going to be late, whatever. And then when you get on the road, eventually you hear there was a car accident. So maybe the lost keys and the lost lunch and the whatever, taking your time, deciding you want to take your time, you want to go to the bathroom before you go to work, sort of thing, saved you from being involved in that car accident. Because if you would have been there, if you hadn't done all that other stuff, you might have been the one that got hit or in the accident or whatever. So there's all kinds of, there's proof that happens all the time. Weird things happen to you, and it makes you go, that's wild, and stuff. It's usually stuff that's there to protect you. Again, they're usually invisible. There's like a clip from a TV show or movie that also shows a broody guy with like a jacket who looks angry all the time, and he's walking through like this dark city, and then he runs into people, and then one thing he does is there's a baby in a pram, and he pulls the thing over the baby. The mother's like, "Why the hell are you touching my pram?" And he just walks away, and she didn't do anything about it. And then there's a dude who's walking, and the guy's coming up behind him, and then he like grabs him and like pulls him back, and the dude's like, "What are you doing? What's the matter with you?" And a TV comes and just misses him. There's a kid who's running after a ball that's going into the street, and this guy walks in, trips the kid, who falls down and bangs his knee and his arms, and they're like, "Why would you trip a kid?" And then a car goes by, would have hit him if he would have been running out there. And then the last one is where there's a guy buying flowers at a flower stand, and this guy pushes the guy into the woman at the flower stand, and the guy's like, "What's the matter with you?" And a car comes rolling through, lost control, that if he would have been standing there, he would have been hit by the car. And then with the whole pram thing, it starts to rain, so he was protecting the baby. That's considered a guardian angel aspect as well. I kind of believe in guardian angels because there's some stuff that, how could I be so stupid to forget this? Or why do I all of a sudden feel the need to go to the bathroom? You feel like this morning, I usually ignore that feeling I have to go to the bathroom and I was running late anyway. But it was like, you know what? I just need to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom. So I ended up leaving about 2 minutes later than usual. There was no accidents or any problems, but maybe there could have been. Maybe that's also, instead of you being involved in the accident, maybe you were going to cause the accident, or the accident was going to happen if you were there, but since you weren't there, nothing happened. You know, there's all kinds of things you have to think about. So you can start thinking about that. Maybe there are guardian angels who are watching over you. Like a good example is my wife got hit by a car years back during a snowfall. It was like 10 o'clock at night, and it just started snowing. And it's beautiful. If you've ever walked in the snow at night, it's silent, it's quiet. It's a Sunday night, so everybody's asleep in bed. Everybody knew the snow was coming. So they're all, and so she decided she wanted to do some Pokemon Go before she went to bed. And so she wanted to go out into the snow, and I stayed home with the kids to make sure, because they were younger. And I said, "Yeah, it's fine, go ahead." And then I get a phone call from her about 10, 15 minutes later saying she was hit by a car. Could I come get her? So I get in the car, and she was crossing a crosswalk right near the middle school, and and snow's come down. She's wearing like a dark sort of jacket, but she was in the crosswalk, and she had the walk sign. So she was perfectly fine. Woman who was turning onto the road that my wife was walking across didn't see her because there's nobody out and about, and luckily it was only about 5 miles an hour when it hit dawn. And no major issues for her. I think she had not fractures, but like bruises, stuff like that. She had to wear crutches for a little while, but she was more suffering from shock that night coming back that she got hit by a car. But we we didn't go to the hospital. We went to a 24-hour sort of care in the morning, and they took care of her, and then she was off for a couple days, and then she was back to normal. So she was okay. But the fact is that could have been a whole lot worse. The car could have been turning quicker, or so whatever. So there might have been, maybe Dawn needed to get hit for some reason, but she didn't want to. The guardian angel didn't want Dawn to get killed or whatever. So they made it be a snowfall and a light, not a light tap, because she was still in a lot of pain and hurt and stuff like that. So I kind of believe that guardian angels exist. Do I believe that there are angels with wings flying around and talking to people? Not so much. The Bible talks about a lot, but that's the Bible. And you're supposed to believe in the angels and stuff like that, and the cherub angels, stuff like that. And, the fallen angels are the demons and stuff like that. It's possible. But again, not every religion has an angel messenger sort of thing. So angels are my number 17. Now as I said, there are some pictures out there, videos of what they claim are angels and stuff like that. I think there was one a while back, which was like, it was during like a massive rainstorm or lightning storm or something, and it was a view of like the rain or whatever in this neighborhood, and they saw this thing with these giant wings flying behind it. So I don't know. Number 16 kind of pisses me off a little bit because people truly believe they exist. Giants, and in some cases the Nephilim giants, but in this case the giants are the next number 16 on the list. Nephilim giants are these beings that have recently come into fruition in the last 10 years or so, usually believed by people who are flat earthers, or believe that at one time there were giants and they misinterpret a lot of stuff about, like the Peruvian garden, these garden things side of the hill. They look like giant steps. So people are saying the giant staircase for the Nephilim giants. And then there was this one piece of metal that is massive that looks like a knife that they found in the water. Like that was what the giant used for food. And then there's like a mountain that looks like a giant had fallen and was petrified. And then there was the weird case of the guy who's driving and he looks up at a mountain and he's far away and the mountain's right there. And there's somebody, he can make a clear view of somebody standing at the top of the mountain. Now, if a human was standing at the top of the mountain, you wouldn't be able to see him because of how far away the mountain was and where this guy was in his car. But he actually saw a full-size person in shadow and was like taking some videotapes of it. And there's rumored that once he released it on TikTok or a reel or whatever, that he started getting weird phone calls and people threatening him and black cars outside of his house that drove away at night. And he was videotaping the stuff like that, saying, look at this, what's happening ever since I posted my giant stuff. It means they're covering something up. And then supposedly he disappeared. And nobody has seen him since. So a lot of stuff is misinterpreted. I do not believe that giants existed on Earth. Again, it's from folklore, from why where did this fairy tale come from, Jack and the giant beanstalk? Unless they actually saw a giant walking around, why would they write a story about a huge human? Whoever would have thought of such a thing? Why are there pictures of giant beings and paintings and stuff like that? It's art, guys. Come on. I'm cynical about a lot of stuff, but this Nephilim giant stuff is absolutely mind-numbing. As I said, I don't necessarily mean that they might not entirely be flat earthers also, but they're up there on my annoyance scale with the flat earthers. I really truly believe that there were never any giants that existed, but because people want to live fantasies or live like Harry Potter or stuff like that, where there are Roald Dolls, BFG, stuff like that, where there's all this giant, stories and movies and cartoons and stuff like that. They want to truly believe in this stuff. And so similar with the flat earthers, people believe way back in like the 1300s, 1200s, the earth was flat. So why not 1,200 years later, why don't we still believe in that? I'm sorry, I should say 800 some years later. Why are we, why not still believe that sort of stuff? And, they were talking about giant stuff like that. Why not talk about giant stuff like that? I am irritated beyond belief about people who believe that the Nephilim giants exist. I don't believe, and as I said, the only real video evidence, with the exception of the one dude up with the mountain up there, the only other is these architectural and natural forming sort of things that I think there's a term where your mind looks at something and gives it attributes that aren't actually there. The face on Mars, that's the big thing about Mars. Why we can picture like a chicken in the clouds. Our mind sees a cloud that looks like a chicken and say that's chicken. So sort of something like that. You see a rock formation that looks like a petrified giant, and if you read your Lord of the Rings, you know that giants get petrified in the sunlight or whatever. Or you read your Harry Potter and you want so much to have, because Hagrid is a half giant, half human, so he's smaller than regular giants. But there are real giants in the world of Harry Potter, and it makes you want to believe that there are such things in this world because it gives your life some kind of meaning, to believe in this sort of fantasy stuff. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with you making videos, stuff like that. but there are just it drives me bonkers how they are so sure that they're being lied to, and that's a scary thing to believe, that you've been lied to your whole life about everything. And yes, there's some stuff that is being covered up and you're being lied about, but not everything is a conspiracy, and that's driving me crazy. Number 15 is the chupacabra. The goat sucker. This is more of a more recent thing. 1990s was when the chupacabra first really came into existence for the most part. It's in the Southwest, Mexico, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, that sort of whole area out there. I think they've even had maybe some as far east as Florida. There might have been some. And then during the early 2000s, when we've had this advent of all these like supernatural TV shows and stuff like that, that would do not just ghosts and stuff like that, but all kinds of stuff. There were videotapes of weird looking dogs that had like a combination of dogs and wolves or dogs and coyotes, which are similar on scale, but it was a weird looking dog or a dog fox thing, or it was a weird looking fox that had weird facial structures and had these giant fangs that came out, because the chupacabra is called bloodsucker or something like that. And the whole story started when a farmer came out one day and found all of his livestock was dead, and there were puncture wounds in their necks, and all the blood was sucked out of all these creatures. And that became the essence of chupacabra. I think chupacabra might have existed long before that in the folklore of the Southwestern people. And that's maybe where all this came together. And then all of a sudden, just like with the scary clowns, when one person goes viral, all of a sudden there's more and more. So it's like, oh yeah, I had that happen to me about 3 months ago. I didn't think much about it. I thought it was some sort of predator, but yeah, it's the same exact thing. The blood was sucked out of them, but they weren't eaten, that sort of thing. And then they had, as I said, some pictures that have been started surfacing of these dogs with these massive fangs coming down. And that's in the Americas. And then in Mexico, the chupacabra is more considered as a goat sucker, I think is what it's called, is more considered as a cryptid sort of creature. In America, it's considered to be like a dog, fox, coyote, wolf sort of hybrid that just happens to have extraordinarily long fangs that sucks the blood out of it. In Mexico and in the further southern countries where chupacabra is present, their drawings of what people have seen, eyewitnesses who've seen the chupacabra, has it almost like a humanoid standing on two legs, cryptid sort of thing, like a little like upstanding, a giant like alien looking creature standing on two legs with like suckers in his hands instead of his mouth, and that's where, so there's a little disconnect on what the actual chupacabra looks like. The Mexico and the southern people who have their chupacabra thing, they have a completely different view of what they think the chupacabra looks like compared to America, who, as I said, makes it look like a dog hybrid with another canine species, but just has these long, extraordinarily long fangs. So again, this is more classified as cryptid because it is started off in the folklore of like Mexico and stuff like that. But then when and literally it just started one day, some dude was going out to his pasture and found all of his livestock, his sheep, stuff like that, goats, all dead with the blood sucked out of them. The story goes viral, and then of course before you know it, everything snowballs, and everybody has seen the chupacabra. So not sure if this exists. Is it very well could be. Could it also be just regular predators who didn't want to eat the meat, just wanted to suck the blood? Not that they're vampires or anything, but they that's just what they did. That's a possibility that could have happened too. Maybe it is a new species of canine that's out there about that nobody knows about, that tends to subsist on blood. Nobody knows. But chupacabra sightings have I don't know if they've lessened, but the national spotlight on them has definitely waned, because I haven't heard of another chupacabra attack in a long time. But I think it's still strongly a South American, Mexican sort of folklore sort of thing, and they still have stories about that to this day. So chupacabra is number 15. 14, you could also kind of consider as a creepypasta. But the reason why it's this high up on the list was because there's been a movie made about them. There was a actual court case that centered around this being, and it's fairly well known. Most people know, if you say the name, you know what you're talking about. Same with chupacabra. You say chupacabra, most people know that. But if you say something else, some people might not know what you're talking about. The rake, a lot of people might not know what the rake is. But chupacabra, a lot of people know what it is. And Slender Man, a lot of people, you say Slender Man, they kind of know what it is. Slender Man, again, as number 14, is a creepypasta sort of invention. Again, creepypasta is the new urban legend sort of thing. But now you have visual proof and stuff like that. People can computer generate Slender Man videos or whatever. And it's always the sort of the same. It's a very thin and tall being who has a completely all white face with no eyes, no mouth, no nose, is dressed in a black suit pants, black suit jacket, and a tie and stuff like that, and looks like, a no face sort of grave worker, or in Nightmare Before Nightmare Before Christmas, Jack Skellington, but without the skeleton, just a completely blank face and a black suit, and very, very tall and slender, hence the name Slender Man. Very skinny arms, very skinny legs, and there are videos of him, like crawling on buildings, looking like a spider, and with the being able to have the really, really long legs and arms, being able to climb up buildings, stuff like that. As I said, there was actual movie that entered the movie theaters. I mean, there was a Rake movie, I think, but it was like on a Shudder or something like that, and no one really paid much attention to it. Slender Man itself actually had a movie that was released in movie theaters. There's a song about Slender Man, Slender Man, Slender Man, blah, blah, blah. And again, I think it is a creepypasta that exists, but there are videos of people playing at a playground, and someone pans over and you see Slender Man like 8 feet, 10 feet tall, thin and skinny, walking through the woods sort of thing. And then, of course, the video of him crawling around a building and stuff like that. But here's the reason why it's number 14. It's not a good reason either. It has entered, whereas the Rake is, okay, a small portion of people know what it's about, but it never really caused any issues. Slender Man has. There was a court case a while back that a young girl killed another young girl, claiming that Slender Man told her to do it. So it was an actual court case using this creepypasta of Slender Man as like a being that controls people's minds to commit heinous acts, even though the person might have been, in actuality is probably psychotic in the end, or has their own mental issues. But the fact that they use Slender Man as a defense is what puts him above other creepypasta and other stuff, because everybody knows who Slender Man is. You say Slender Man, you say Slender Man remove 100 people, 70% of the people in there probably know who Slender Man is. 70 people probably know who Slender Man is. The other 30 might know. You might be cut down. 15 people might have heard of it, but don't really know much about it. 15 might not know about it. It's a hugely popular Halloween costume. More for grown-ups. I've never seen any kids dressed as Slender. Did I? I don't think I've ever seen any kids dressed as Slender Man come trick-or-treating, but I'm sure they have a Slender Man costume for kids. And I don't know if he's still popular, but he does have a song. He has a movie. He has an actual court case where someone actually lost their life to the belief that this creature be it a cryptid, supernatural, or creepypasta, actually existed and it was controlling them. So Slender Man is number 14. And again, due to the fact of the unfortunate court case where someone died, and also the movie that actually hit movie theaters, the song, the popularity of the Slender Man creature, and just kind of the unease about seeing a very tall, skinny creature climbing around the outside of your building. Number 13, we find dinosaurs. But Dylan, dinosaurs did exist. Yes, they did. I'm talking about dinosaurs that are still being seen to this day because, as far as we all know, dinosaurs went extinct when the comet hit the Earth millions of years ago and caused the complete annihilation of the dinosaur species and gave way for mammals like myself to come out of the darkness and take control of the world and fuck it up like we have now. But that being said, there are still reports to this day that there are still dinosaurs hidden in certain parts of the world. Now, of all of the things on this list, there's another one that's a little closer up top. I kind of truly believe in the fact that I truly believe that there probably still are some dinosaurs still around. The reason being, the most famous one of the dinosaurs is Mokele Mbembe. Now, most people have never heard of it, but he is a fairly well-known dinosaur. The issue is he's been spotted in the Congo, which is a massive African jungle, I think even bigger than the Amazon. And a lot of the Congo has not been discovered yet because of the different types of creatures that live in it that pose a threat to humans. Natural tribes who have lived in there their whole lives and have never had contact with the outside world probably still live in the deepest part of the Congo. And just the fact that the terrain is really hard to traverse. And those are kind of the main things here. But there is one picture that someone posted of what looks like a brontosaurus type of creature, who is Mokele Mbembe, in the waters in one of the deepest parts of the Congo. Again, it's an area that has very rarely been explored because you can't get to it and all the dangers attributed to it. So the jungle in the Congo is in that perfect area because the Congo is right there around the equator, if I remember my geography correctly. And so the temperature is fairly similar to the way it was on the ancient Earth when the dinosaurs did exist. So maybe not every dinosaur died in the comet explosion because the world is pretty big, and because of the location of where the comet hit and the amount of dust that got into the air that caused the ice age and killed plants and stuff like that. But maybe, just maybe, and caused an ice age, maybe, just maybe, it did not affect the entire Earth. In some cases, half of the Earth may have been completely covered in ash, frozen, ice and snow and dryness and just stuff like that killed the plants, and that killed the dinosaurs, that killed everything along the lines and made them extinct. But maybe there are portions of the Amazon, of the Congo, that were not affected or affected very slightly by temperature dropping a few degrees. But these jungles are still very fertile. They still have lots of food and water and stuff to eat. So maybe, just maybe, having a Mokele Mbembe being in one of these far reach jungles is really not that hard to believe. Another one is woolly mammoths. Woolly mammoths, there are pictures, videos of them still existing. They exist and survive in the coldest reaches of the earth because of their huge fur and stuff like that. So they're seen mostly around up there like that. There was a recent video taken of a woolly mammoth in like Siberia. Again, does not surprise me that there's potential that there could be some woolly mammoths still alive, because in Alaska and in other areas, they have actually discovered full-on carcasses that have been somehow and were frozen, like cryogenically kind of frozen by the cold air and the snow and the ice, stuff like that, so that the woolly mammoth died, but it preserved it so that you see. That's why we know what they look like, because you don't just have the bones, you've got the skin. Northern Exposure, one of my favorite TV shows of all time, in season 5, one of their finales, Joel discovers a woolly mammoth being thawed out in the permafrost in Alaska, and tells the world. And some people believe him, some don't, but he wants to drag it out, and Maurice sees an opportunity to use it as a way to bring people to the town. And then when he gets there, it's gone. A lot of people think that Joel was crazy. But then we discover that Walt, who was one of the new characters introduced around season 4, season 5, actually found the woolly mammoth also, took it home, gutted it, cut it all up, and cooked it, and it's eating mammoth meat. And Joel finds out about it, and Walt was like, yeah, I see him all the time. We're also this close to bringing them back to life. And scientists are trying to figure out a way to Jurassic Park them, because they have these preserved specimens all over the world that they're able to maybe create clones or figure out how the systems work, because their entire systems are still intact. And you use science to create the woolly mammoth. So to me, woolly mammoths are another one that could technically still be alive. Out in the Southwest, again, Chupacabra's out there too, but why not this also? Native Americans and other people hearing stories about the Thunderbird, a mythical giant bird that supposedly is so huge, and the sound that its wings make when it flaps them sounds like thunder, hence the name Thunderbird. And on top of that, add some videotape of what people claim is a flying pterodactyl / pterodon. There have been a couple videos of that. Combine the two of them together, and your Thunderbird, which is a mythical creature that is revered by the Native Americans, and they tell stories about it, could actually still be a species of pterodon. And hence these videos of pterodons flying through the air, while probably rare, because nobody else has really shot any videos of them or released them, again, might not be as far off to exist, because again, they fly. So maybe the pterodon's ancestors, once things started going south, they're like, oh shit, we need to get the fuck out of Dodge. And they're the only ones who probably could soar from run away from the destruction that's coming, because they can probably fly thousands of miles, not all at one time, obviously, but they can fucking fly. There's nothing stopping them. Other dinosaurs like that, they've got water, they've got mountains, they got stuff like that is stopping them, canyons that is stopping them from escaping from the terror that is the destruction of their earth. Pterodons are just like, I'm just going to fly the fuck away from here. So that, again, is another one that I think that could be a possibility. And we'll talk about another one, and I know you probably know which one it is once we get close to the top 5. So dinosaurs, to me, probably should be higher up on the list now. And if I did this list, I'd probably switch it with at least number 10, 11, or 12, actually. I probably should have made dinosaurs higher on the list, because this one is one of the ones I truly believe probably does exist. Number 12 is another one that's a very intriguing one, and is this high up also, despite not really having much more than one big experience that lasted about 3 or 4 months. It's Mothman. Now everybody knows Mothman. Mothman. There was a movie, Mothman Prophecies, which is fantastic. It's a great watch during Halloween season, but it's based on a true story in a West Virginia town back in the 60s for a period of about 3 months. Multiple people, not just one or two wackos, but multiple people of all ages and all creeds and all class levels and all races, and have all seen this. Teenagers who were necking in the cars near this like steel, old steel factory, whatever, were like one of the first people to experience it. And they told the police, and the police went out to this facility and they saw it also. The fucking police saw it. Newspaper reporters may have come out and seen it. They might not have gotten good videotapes of it. I think there's like one good picture of what could potentially be the Mothman on top of this bridge, but I don't know if it was a real picture or not. But again, but people, all through the town, over this 3-month period, who know that this sort of thing's going on, they're keeping a more aware eye of stuff. And there's stories of, older lady, grandmother, whatever, she's making dinner for herself, like at 7, 8 o'clock at night, and she hears a ruckus outside, looks out her kitchen window, and there's Mothman. No rhyme or reason whatsoever, just around. People, and during this time, the police who have actually seen it, they're trying to keep tabs on all of the eyewitness accounts, so they can maybe try to investigate, because they saw it, as I said, themselves. And so it just became a huge deal, and then it just stopped. But an even bigger story came out of it, that being the destruction of a bridge around Christmas time that killed close to 70, 80 people. And then the lore then became that Mothman was either A, the cause of the bridge collapse, and then once the bridge collapsed, he disappeared because the sighting stopped after the bridge collapse, or B, which is what Mothman Prophecies really focuses on, is B, is that he is like a harbinger of when something terrible is about to happen. And it might not be, it's like he pops up and then a day or two later, something happens. He's a harbinger. So he comes, he hangs around, and no one really thinks much about it. And then he's like there to not warn, because, he was trying to warn, but because he's this sort of creature that can't speak English, his, flying and seeing people and stuff like that and scaring them and not being able to communicate might be, hard for him. So he can't do it. So he just sort of has to just sort of hang around trying to find somebody who might be able to understand him. So the Harbinger one is the main part of the Mothman Prophecies, which is a story written about the Mothman sightings at that time. Made into a great, awesome movie. As I said, you should definitely check it out. It was on my list of top 80 horror movies to check out. But the town in West Virginia that had it treats it like a major story for them. It's the one time that their town was one of the most interesting and important towns in the United States. And it's a small little West Virginia town. And they have a statue of Mothman there now. But Mothman has become so ingrained in pop culture. There's, again, movies, TV shows, comics, books, action figures, video game characters of Mothman. Everybody knows Mothman. There was the most recent commercial I saw as for like Bounty paper towels, and the kid is dressed as Mothman for Halloween, and he knocks over like a jar of juice or whatever, and they have to clean it up with the Bounty stuff, but he's dressed as the Mothman. And then there have been rumors that Mothman has popped up over the last 30 years in various other locations, again, only hanging around for a few months at a time, and then disappearing after a disaster occurs. Now, it's not as well documented because it doesn't seem like it happens all that much. And some people, or they might not, the eyewitness pool was not as big as it was in West Virginia. So I don't know for sure, but the fact is Mothman is, again, one of these cryptids that very well could exist and could be something else other than just a creature lost to time. Could be actually, as postulated in Mothman prophecies, a harbinger of doom. And nobody's going to really know, but it's still an interesting creature, cryptid, and the fact that people still talk about it is really interesting because people don't know you say Mothman, they're going to know exactly what you're talking about. And as I said, what made it so realistic was that multiple people of different ages, sexes, races, religious beliefs, whatever, they all saw it, including police officers. Number 11 finds us with the skinwalker. We go back again to the Native American folklore. And Native Americans believe in the skinwalker as well. Again, you say skinwalker, it has had a certain resurgence recently with lots of reels and videos of TikToks and stuff like that of people claiming that skinwalkers are amongst them or bothering them. Like there's the one where here's my dog in the house with me. He's looking out the window and there's another dog that looks exactly like him, but bears his fangs, his teeth, and is barking and stuff like that. Or there's a creature that comes into their house that looks like a dog, but is walking on its hind legs and has a big goofy look on its face. Or there's videos of an animal that is spotted like in like closed caption video or whatever, is walking and all of a sudden it stops and it's like a human sprouts up and walks away. Skinwalkers, again, are a Native American folklore that has, I forget who the writer is, but I've read a couple of his books. Tony something. Tony Hillerman wrote a book called Skinwalkers, which is about Native American police officers. And it's a story about they're investigating crime and they believe that people have been seeing skinwalkers. So and then the amount of shows that have had people going out into the world and investigating ghosts and other creatures like that. Ozzy Osbourne's son Jack has one of these shows, and he went and did a episode looking for skinwalkers in like North Dakota or something like that. One of the most famous haunted-esque sort of ranches out in Utah or Montana or whatever is called Skinwalker Ranch. There's a TV show, a reality show about it, books about that as well. And there's a lot of weird things, including strange creatures that they think might be skinwalkers also. So again, skinwalkers are like humans or demons or whatever that can shapeshift and are there to cause harm or something like that. And it has become a really big deal recently, as I said, with TikToks and reels and stuff like that. People have really been going all out talking about skinwalkers and showing these videos. I've seen some of the videos. They are weird, and I don't know exactly how they did this stuff, but yeah, sometimes the dogs look really, really weird. The big bright, wide eyes and the growling and the barking and and then the one that you can see on the outside and you see the real one on the inside, but it's not a reflection, and then the video of the animal turning into a human, that sort of thing. So skinwalkers are more like shapeshifters, but the Native Americans, it is part of folklore. Skinwalkers just sounds a lot more creepy. and they too believe it's sort of a shapeshifter sort of type, but that's why they call it skinwalkers, because to them it means that it's a shapeshifter who's walking in a different skin than they're used to be walking in, hence the name skinwalker. It makes sense. So skinwalkers are number 11 due to the fact that, again, Skinwalker Ranch, it is actual Native American folklore that they actually kind of really believe. There's books about it. There's been, again, not quite movies like A Mothman Prophecy or A Slender Man, but there have been movies about skinwalkers and stuff like that. But again, the biggest thing now is that this is 2024. This is one of the more popular cryptid supernatural creatures right now are these skinwalkers. My son talks about skinwalkers. He watches that stuff all the time. So that's why it's number 11. Top 10. Number 10, demons. The Exorcist, demonic possession, in a lot of some of these ghost adventures and ghost hunter sort of things, they feel like something has scratched them, or there's demonic voices as like really dark, deeper, darker sort of voices that don't sound human. And again, demons are like beings of the underworld. And if you're more of a Christian belief in more demon stuff, there might be other religions, as I said, that don't really believe in like an evil demon sort of creature. But there are not really any sightings of demons, but demon possessions have been a huge deal. So much so that the Catholic Church actually does have exorcisms. So if someone truly believes that they are possessed by the devil or a demon for that matter, the church can actually come out and perform an actual church, what's the proper word I'm looking for? A church, something you do that priests learn how to do as an actual thing that they do, a job that they do if someone is really believes that their house is either possessed by demons or they themselves are possessed by demons. The Exorcist made it popular because it was a hugely popular film, and demon possessions still kind of exist, and it's a staple of tons of horror movies, demon possessions. I'm going to tell you a weird story real quick that I don't think I ever really told anybody about. And I don't know if I actually believe if it's in a demon or anything like that. But years ago, I was at work at the warehouse that I work at now, and I was wearing shorts, and I was just walking through the warehouse. It was like 2:00 or whatever. And I think there's we were gathering for something. Maybe it was like closer to 10 or 12 o'clock, gathering for like a birthday or something like that. And all of a sudden I feel pain down on my calf area. Like I scratched, like I rubbed up against a sharp point or something like that. And I'm like, ow. And a friend of mine's like, what's the matter? And I said, I don't know. It just feels like something cut me. And I'm looking around, but there's nothing around that I can see. There's no like glass or metal or cardboard or anything like that that's sticking out that could slice it. And then I take a closer look at it. It's actually 3 cuts on my leg, and they weren't there earlier, and I have no idea how they got there. Kind of freaked me out a little bit because it looks like someone just came along and scratched me, and it hurt, and I felt it. And there were marks on my leg, and as I said, there was nothing around me. I thought it might have been a mouse or something like that, or a rat, but there was no rats. After I felt the scratch the first time, I looked down immediately to see if it was some kind of animal, but it wasn't. And I was inside, and there was nothing around. There was just a group of people. And instead, it as I said, it really felt like it might have been a little demonic spirit that sliced me open. There was a woman I work with who claims to be a psychic medium, I had no reason to doubt her. I mean, she believes in herself. That's fine. And she also thought it might be some kind of demon or whatever. And she was afraid I was going to bring it home and it was going to cause a kind of ruckus here. And honestly, as I said, it was like 2016 when all this stuff went to shit all of a sudden. So I don't know if maybe there is still a demonic thing, or the scratches are gone now. But the weird thing is, I continually seem to have scratches down there during the summer. Not scratches where it's like all of a sudden I start itching down there, and I start itching myself, and then I look down and there's all this blood coming out because I'm dug into something. So I don't know. So it's a weird little thing to me that happened, and I'm not sure I exactly believe in a demon per se or an exorcism, but the Catholic Church believes enough that they do have an exorcism rite that they can do if someone requests it. So someone teaches them how to do it, or if they don't know how to do it, there is a handbook, because you see them, they're always bringing, like, usually it's the Bible, they're bringing something and they're doing the cross and they're the holy water and stuff like that to try to make the house clean. So, but that's the thing, is that the Catholic Church has an actual rite that can protect you from demonic possession. And there's been lots of movies about demonic possession. Most of them, they said, based on true stories. You can do research on your own. If you type in like demon possession, you'll find a ton of real stories, not movie ideas, not whatever, people who claim to be possessed by demons. Don't know if they actually are, if it's some other type of medical issue or mental issue, whatever. But the fact that enough stuff is out there that this could actually be a real thing could be kind of scary. And my own personal issue I had with that. Number 9 is the megalodon. You hear about the megalodon all the time. It's out there. The shark, a shark that's bigger than the great white shark. They made movies about that also, and the megalodon actually did exist at one time. And you can maybe make the case that should maybe been included in the dinosaur line way back on number 13, because it was a prehistoric creature. But recently, not recently, but back in like the 60s or 70s or whatever, when the coelacanth was discovered, and a prehistoric fish that was thought to be extinct was found intact, and since then it has flourished. So could a megalodon actually exist, a giant shark bigger than a great white shark? Again, you get all these sort of videos that people claim might be megalodons. There is one of an aerial satellite shot of like the Gulf of Mexico, and you see all this, it's way up, it's a satellite in space, and looks down and you see a shark-like formation. It's very small in the Gulf of Mexico, but you guys see, zoom in on it. This is from space. You go in and you zoom in on it, and it looks bigger than anything you've ever seen. That fact that it could be seen from space is how big it is. Megalodon teeth have been discovered on the coast of Maryland, for that matter. That doesn't mean that a megalodon is out there now losing its teeth. It could be they were buried in the silt of the sea bottom, and the current flowing of water has unearthed it eventually and has made its way to the beaches here in Maryland. The Marianas Trench is one of the deepest trenches that we cannot explore because the pressure is too great on it. Who's to say that a megalodon doesn't live there? So that's all these sort of things you hear about. Oil rigs have shown pictures of these, underwater things near the bottom where their oil rigs are, that are massive looking sharks. Great white sharks, actual dead great white sharks, have been washing up on shore, not as much recently, but has been a little bit, cut in half or whatever. It's like, what can cut in half a great white shark? So immediately it goes to the fact that it's a megalodon. A lot of people believe that the megalodon might still exist, because why not? I mean, it's another one of those things where it's like a cryptid. It's like a panda bear. As I said, nobody knew panda bears existed a long time ago. People said they claimed that there was some sort of weird white and black bear that ate eucalyptus leaves that hung out in trees, but nobody ever saw one. And then eventually one just walks in the middle of town and says, "Hey, what's up?" who's to say that a megalodon is not just sort of doing that also, that it survived, much as I said, these other dinosaurs in number 13 survived the extinction of the dinosaurs by being in the deepest part of the ocean. How could that actually really affect you other than you run out of other megalodons out there, or you run out of food because no more little sharks or whatever they're not eating and they're dying, and then eventually you're going to starve yourself. What's to say that it might not have found some sort of other way? Or maybe there's a Greenland shark that's 400 some years old. How do you know that a megalodon might not be still around there? So it's an interesting look at stuff, and it's another kind of a cryptid sort of thing, but again has an actual real world actual proof that it existed at one time. The fact is, does it exist now? Probably not, but there's a lot of weird stuff out there going on. Number 8, we're getting into now the big stuff now, the real famous, more supernatural stuff. Number 8, you get the werewolves. Werewolves. I'm actually in the middle. I post a movie trailer every day, all year long, and I'm in the middle of Werewolf Week right now. Werewolves are a staple in stories. They're part of the Universal Monster Saga. There's tons of books and movies about werewolves. There's comic books. There's different takes on the werewolf. Stephen King wrote a werewolf book. And werewolves are, for those who don't know, is a disease called lycanthropy, where in the lore, if a werewolf bites you, you are infected with the werewolf disease. And every full moon, once a month, you will turn into a half human, half wolf, bipedal wolf man who goes around, howls like a wolf, and needs to satiate your hunger. So you eat chickens or whatever, or go after humans or whatever. It is a staple, as I said, in movies. One of my favorite Tim Burton movie, Big Fish, has a werewolf story in it. American Werewolf in London, Silver Bullet, Cycle of the Werewolf, Wolfen, the Howling. There's tons of werewolves stories out there, and there is not one specific book like a Dracula or a Frankenstein that you can go back into and say, that's where it originally came from. No, werewolf's just a human werewolf, a human wolf hybrid. Teen Wolf is another good one. As I said, and that's why it's number 8, is because it's a hugely popular supernatural creature, part of the Universal Monsters, but it might not be as huge as some of the other supernatural beings we're getting ready to talk about here. But werewolves are still a pretty big deal. And again, it's all sort of fantasy fiction stuff, but not recently, it's been happening for a while. It bleeds into reality where people, again, truly believe that they might actually have seen werewolves on their property, or they've seen something in the woods at night that they can't explain, a wolf that walks upright. Some people even call them skinwalkers, but why not say they're werewolves also? So werewolves number 8. Number 7, you have zombies. Zombies, again, is something that comes from sort of like a real world thing. New Orleans witches and stuff like that have, been rumored to, from the 1800s and stuff like that, been able to the theorize that they can raise the dead through their black magic and stuff like that. And that's what kind of a zombie is, where you have no soul, but you are still mobile and you need sustenance, and brains just happen to be what you are looking for. Now, it's not always the case. Again, they can change the lore up with zombies, but zombies went through a major renaissance in the 2010 sort of era with Max Brooks's How to Survive a Zombie Apocalypse book that became huge. And then Shit, because Matthew Brooks was my favorite writers. It's not Matthew Brooks, is it? No, it's Max Brooks, dumbass. World War Z, which was so you had the zombie survival guide. So how do you survive a zombie apocalypse? World War Z was his next book, where he detailed a one-on-one that has a specific phrase I can't think of right now. An oral discussion about a fictional zombie war, and then it sort of took off from there. I mean, zombies have been around since before Max Brooks did all that. George Romero did, Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead, something like that in the 1960s. So that was like kind of the first appearance of zombies, and they weren't as big of a deal for the longest time. And then Max Brooks does all these books, and they become hugely popular. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, everybody is doing a zombie thing. Z Nation on Sci-Fi was a great zombie show. The Walking Dead, they made a comic book of it, then they made a TV show, which became hugely popular. Wasn't the zombie apocalypse and Shaun of the Dead also? So Shaun of the Dead was there. They made sequels to Night of the Living Dead. So zombies had a moment. They from like the 2010s to early 2020s, it was just a huge thing. Zombies were the hot supernatural item, and everybody liked to talk about it, read about it, watch stuff about it. There were tons of movies made about them. There were lots of books written about them. And then The Walking Dead, of course, is a big thing. So that's why zombies overtakes werewolves, because werewolves have never really had sort of that moment where they were the focal point of all your supernatural longing. The number 6 is kind of a slippery slope. Number 6 is witches. Or Wiccan, whatever you want to talk about. One of the best shows on TV right now is Agatha All Along, which is about a group of witches in a coven walking the witch's road. Practical Magic is a great Halloween fall movie to watch about 2 sister witches. Kiki's Delivery Service, a Hayao Miyazaki anime about a young witch who has to start out on her own and has all kinds of adventure stuff like that. Hocus Pocus, evil witches try to, kill children. Hansel and Gretel, well, that's it has the evil witch in the candy house trying to eat children. And then you have Salem, Massachusetts, where you actually have real life witches who live up there. You have Wiccan, which is the Wiccans, which is a religion, witches and Wiccans, which is an actual religion that the people who delve in it call themselves witches and Wiccans. The Witches of Salem, they have opened like apothecary stores and all kinds of stuff and things just to get the tourist dollars in, but they actually are a member of the witches' religion, the Wiccan religion, and they follow it to a T. They just make some money with it. And then again, you have the Salem witch trials, which is a big historical thing. So witches have been around for millennia. And it's an actual, as I said, an actual religion. But then you also have the stories of, do they actually have magical powers? And if you go talk to a Wiccan or regular witch, they probably don't. You're not going to find a normal person who's a Wiccan or a witch who's going to be able to fly on a broom or stir a spoon without using her mind, using, the ability to change things like they do in Practical Magic, or just that witches have these powers. The witches and Wiccans that are out now, that is just a belief that they have, where the earth is like their god, and everything they do is to try to protect the earth. But then you have, as I said, you have the history. You've got the pop culture version of the witches, from Bugs Bunny's Witch Hazel to Hocus Pocus to Practical Magic. As I said, there's tons of good witches, bad witches. The Wizard of Oz on top of that, 1930s, 1939. So witches are a huge part of not just American history, but world history in general. We'll focus on American because we live in America. And we had a little bit more to do with that with the Salem witch trials, where people were claiming to be possessed or be witches, trying to bewitch other people, and they were put on trial, and in most cases they were put to death, because in the 1600s the colonists, the Puritan colonists, were so religious in their beliefs, and they believed that anything that was not, of the natural Catholic Christian way or whatever was evil, and that these witches are used to to hunt down people and children and stuff like that. The black cats, like my black kitty. People hate black cats because they believe that it helps with the witch's power, and so people kill and torture black cats during this season, which is absolutely awful. Black cats are not bad luck. That's another thing. Also, they're considered bad luck because of their being seen with witches in paintings and stories, stuff like that. So witches probably should be higher up also, but there is a massive, it's an actual belief, but there's so much when it comes to pop culture, stories, music, art, stuff like that witches are such a big part of also. And that's why they are number 6. Number 5, we find the lake monster family. As I said, I'm combining a lot of stuff. Everyone knows Loch Ness Monster, but you also have Ogopogo, you have Champ, you have Chessie. There's numerous places all over the world where people believe that they have some sort of lake monster in their giant body of water. Or in the case of Chessie, the Chesapeake Bay monster, which is local, lives in the Chesapeake Bay. And this is where, again, why dinosaurs probably should be moved up a little bit in the list next time. The biggest thing that people believe that the Loch Ness Monster, and also a majority of these other lake monster things, could be plesiosaurs, which are dinosaurs that survive in water, swim in water, can breathe underwater, stuff like that. And Loch Ness, which is where the most famous of the lake monsters is from, is a peat lake where it's filled with peat, which is a dark dirt substance. So if you tried to go underwater at the Lake Loch Ness, you could not see like an inch or you can't see like a foot in front of you. It's so dark down there. And it is landlocked, but at one time it wasn't. It had a pathway to the ocean. So it's very possible that during the raining down of the comet that destroyed the Earth and caused the extinction of dinosaurs, a bunch of plesiosaurs who could live underwater, much like with the megalodons, they followed one of these streams to these loch systems in Scotland. And actually, if you look at where a lot of the sightings are, I discovered this on sightings or on Solved Mysteries, something like that. It's all on a longitude line. They're all the same ones. Chessie, Champ, Ogopogo, Loch Ness. There's one over in China. They're all in a similar longitudinal line. So maybe that longitudinal line there's a highway of maybe underwater caverns or stuff like that caused the plesiosaurs to make their ways into these big bodies of water with lots of fish and stuff like that. And then it got closed off. Whoa. It got closed off. Didn't break, thank heavens. It got closed off due to the shifting of the land or ice or whatever. So they were trapped sort of in the lake, and then there was still plenty of food, and there was a family, so they were able to keep, and the lake is fairly big, and then maybe there was a way they can come in and out. I don't know. But lake monsters are one of the more famous, again, pop culture-esque sort of stuff all the time. Everybody knows Loch Ness. And it's kind of a big deal. Give me 1 second. I got a viewer. I can't do this right now. I just have to deal with it. So that's number 5 is the lake monsters. Number 4, we have the ghost family. Ghost, poltergeist, shadow people, black-eyed children, dancing spirits, stuff like that, poltergeists. Ghosts are, again, a huge popularity. Again, is something that's been seen in perpetuity, ghosts show up in Shakespearean times, which is 1500, stuff like that. And it's a way for people to try to come to terms with the deaths of loved ones and also try to explain weird things that they see. And there are pictures of ghosts, but they're usually, faded out, and it's weird. Again, it looks like a form, whatever. Or more recently, Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters, stuff like that. Groups of people go and investigate haunted houses. They take scientific equipment and cameras and spectrographs and stuff like that. They do EVPs where they talk to try to get responses, and then they edit it so they hear what their evidence is, and you hear creepy voices, or you see a shadow creature walking down a hallway, or you see a shadow head that disappears behind something. You see stuff levitating. Someone gets pushed by something. And because they're all sort of similar, ghosts are, first and foremost, ghosts are like sort of the shimmery sort of things that you might see, light flashes, the most recently, the little sparkles that fly around that people say are not bugs or dust particles, but are weird little things that could be a sign, like, a little ball of light that you see on a video of the Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters crew that flies into something and then something happens. People also believe, the ghost could be just a weird shadow that moves without anything around it. And a lot of people believe that ghosts are not like, what's the proper word? I can't think of the proper word. They're not there to interact with you present time. A lot of people believe that what people see as ghosts in locations is, they either died horribly in there, or it was buried on or something was built on a burial ground, and so their spirits are at unrest. But it's usually a loop. Like there was this one Ghost Adventures where they shot this shadow creature walking through the hallway, but it was kept repeating itself because they believe that when the castle or whatever was operational, it was an actual place where somebody would walk down there. So they believe that the spirit might not know that they're a spirit. They might just think that they're going about their sort of day. Poltergeists are when stuff moves on their own, like this bottle. If I put this bottle here and all of a sudden it goes, woo, well, you can actually see me doing it, but it goes, woo, and it goes, and like when it fell, I could say that, oh my God, what happened? I didn't even touch it. I touched it, so I didn't make it fall. But let's just say, that's what a poltergeist does. I'm sitting here and all of a sudden this thing goes boom, like that. That's a poltergeist too, is a playful spirit who is just bounding around, causing all kinds of a ruckus. That's what the poltergeist does. The shadow people, as I said, are ones where you see shadows and they pop up and they disappear, and you go and you don't see anything. Or the black-eyed children, that's not really ghosts. Those are kind of more of a cryptid sort of thing that wasn't on my list. But that's sort of what you get. But ghosts are, everyone claims at one point they've seen a ghost. I think I've seen a ghost before. But again, it could have been my child imagination. I was in the house I grew up in. I was a young kid, and I thought I saw like a sheet floating overhead, and then it disappeared. And then I find out later on that the people who owned the house before, someone died in the room I was sleeping in. So, but this looks like your typical sort of Scooby-Doo sort of ghost, just a sheet just sort of flying around. Why would that person do that if that was their spirit? Another times I believe I've talked a story about Ghost Cat. I've had a number of cats, and when Jinx was still alive, I had experiences which I believe were with Bonnie or Clyde, the cats that we'd had before that had passed away. Nothing too horrible. Like my wife and I and Jinx would be sitting in the family room watching TV or looking on our phones or whatever, and the kids would be upstairs in bed, and then all of a sudden we'd be, just quiet reading stuff, and then we'd hear tinkling on the food dish, and Jinx would look up immediately, and then Dawn and I would look over, like, what was that? And we go out and look, there's nothing there. So you could make the case, hey, it's a mouse or something. No, it was 2 seconds, and it was still tinkling when we got there. But there was nothing there. My son claims that they thought that they saw something with a tail swoop by, and Jinx was nowhere near him. Another time, Jinx was on my bed and we were sleeping at night, and I heard something moving around in the garbage can at like 3 a.m, and I thought it was Jinx. I didn't know Jinx was sitting there, so Jinx stopped. But then I wake up, and Jinx is at the foot of the bed, looking in the same direction as I am. So I get up with a flashlight. I said, "I'm gonna wake my wife up." I looked down to see if it was a mouse or something, but it was really, really loud. There was nothing there. I haven't seen Ghost Cat in a while, and I haven't seen, since Jinx passed, I haven't seen anything either. So I don't know if it was truly just something, or just a weird coincidences or something. I'm not exactly sure. But ghosts are a big deal, and that's why they are number 4. Number 3 is the Bigfoot family. I'm a Bigfoot guy. Again, I believe that Bigfoots are actually real creatures. I believe that they are a new species that we have not discovered. Majority of every state except for Hawaii, every state in the United States except Hawaii have all had a Bigfoot sighting, and in some cases, multiple ones. Even places like Maryland, we've had at least 10, 12 Bigfoot sightings. Obviously, you expect the places like California, Washington, Oregon, Alaska, stuff like that, where you have mountains, stuff like that, to have lots of them, and they do. And then you go to the south, you've got the skunk apes, which is part of the Bigfoot family. Yowie, which is the Australian version of Bigfoot. You've got the abominable snowman, which is the Tibetan version of Bigfoot, or another species, all in white fur, whereas the Bigfoots that we know of are darker fur ones. The Patterson footage, despite everyone claiming that it's all fake, stuff like that, it really has not been proven to be faked. The stories that some people, that one guy who was with them changed the story, changed it back, and changed it, just you can't trust them. I believe it is the best footage of Bigfoot out there. And there's still lots of Bigfoot footage out there all the freaking time. A lot of it is faked, but a lot of it could be bears. That's the other thing also. But I believe in Bigfoot. I believe Bigfoot actually is a new species of a human it's on the evolutionary ladder. That is a step between one certain member of our evolutionary ladder and what became human, how we sort of were able to shift to how we are now. And a lot of the sightings are in deep woods again, with lots of, cover and places to hide. But everyone's like, why don't you see any bones or whatever? Maybe because they keep the bones. Maybe they bury their dead, or maybe they eat their dead and use their bones for other things. I don't know. But I am one that truly believes in Bigfoot, because every state has spotted a Bigfoot. Not every state has bears in it. Are some sightings bears? Sure, probably are. But a lot of them, aren't. And again, Bigfoot is hugely popular. Again, a pop culture thing. You say Bigfoot, everybody knows what you're talking about. The Patterson footage is the most important footage when it comes to Bigfoot, is the best footage, the best proof that it exists, and is the reason why it's still being discussed nowadays. The footprints that are still found all the time, massive, 12, 15, 18 inches long. And everything sort of stays the same. They're like between like 7 and 10 feet tall. They stink. They're usually hairy. They've got big feet. They growl. You've heard weird things, people getting stuff thrown at them. And there have been sightings of them since the early days of the Native Americans. They have sightings of them as well. And then there are stories of people in the 1920s, before, social media, and before really, newspapers don't cover that sort of thing. Even before newspapers, until there was no television and no radio, people were telling stories about being kidnapped by Bigfoot. Teddy Roosevelt, who soon became president, he was out exploring a national park, because he's the national park president. Was out exploring something, and he and a buddy of his heard a story about another buddy of theirs that was killed by, they believe, a Bigfoot. And they believe that while they were in the woods one day, that they might have been visited. They didn't see it, but Teddy Roosevelt, a former president, claims that he believes in Bigfoot, and that there might have been a visit and it killed a friend of his. So Bigfoot is out there. And as I said, you've got the skunk apes, you've got the ones that are in the Everglades, you've got Yowie in Australia. So Australia has them. Tibet has the abominable snowman. So there's all these sort of Bigfoot-esque creatures all over the world. China's got some also. And all over in different climates, stuff like that. There's actually a really good footage of like a skunk ape from like Louisiana or something like that, which is a really good quality video. Maybe not as good as Patterson, but it's still decent. And so it's not out of the realm of possibility that there could be a species of humanoid living in different parts of the world, and they're just really good at not being seen. Number 2 is aliens. Again, people claim 1947 was the first year of real UFO sightings, the modern era of UFO sightings. Roswell happened almost a year later, which when they announced that they found bodies that were aliens, when they changed the story up, that's what started the whole craziness with UFOs. So they think that the government was covering up UFO crashes. Then in the 1980s, people claimed that they were getting abducted by aliens and being, experimented on, including the famous anal probes. Some people were saying that female aliens were having sex with them, and then they were abducted again years later, and they were shown their children, their hybrid with the aliens. The aliens again have the ones that are considered real aliens, not the science fiction ones, that like the Greys and the lizard people and the Scandinavians. Those are the 3 big ones I remember off the top of my head. They're all different, and not everybody has the same memory of what alien has attacked them. 2 people got abducted and were returned, and the police thought they were making up the story, so they left the room while they were together and didn't tell them they were recording it, and they were recording it, listening to what they were saying, and they were freaked out. Something happened to them. And then because of all the stuff, flying saucers, pictures of weird things in the sky you can't see, going into space, pictures of stuff that happened in space, photographs on Mars claiming to have UFOs flying over there, on the moon, stuff like that happening at that. And then it's a science fiction staple, aliens, UFOs, stuff like that. So aliens are massive supernatural cryptid sort of thing. It's something that it would be maybe naive of us to believe that we were the only living beings in the entire universe. But at the same time, you have to think also that when people are looking for life on other planets and other stuff like that, they're looking for life like us, but maybe there is life that breathes carbon instead of oxygen, doesn't need water to survive. Or maybe there's simple cell animals in the frozen oceans of Europa, or on Titans. Who knows what's going on there? So aliens might not necessarily be the stuff that we think about. And even if they were, why would they come to Earth? And plus, we have no way of finding them, because our best spacecraft we can get to, it would take thousands of years to go 1 light year. So there's no way. And we've been sending all kinds of messages out, and we've gotten some weird responses, but we've never actually had an alien come down and say, hey, you're not alone in the universe. And again, you also have the time constraints, galaxies that we're photographing now, that we're shooting these radio waves like that, they might not exist anymore because of the way travel of light is. We don't know what's still out there and what isn't. So, but the fact that people have been having these sightings of UFOs. Now, a lot of them, yes, some of them are faked to get attention, but then there are a lot that, their stories match up, and there's a bunch of young kids that were visited by aliens in Africa at one point. And it was a group of kids during a school day, and every single kid had the same story. And there wasn't enough time for like 12 to 15 kids who might not know each other to sit down and say, we're all going to say the same thing and make the teachers believe that something happened. There was no time for it. And to have 12 or 15 kids do that at that age, like 10, 11 years old, there's no way. So they were speaking from the heart. So stuff is happening. A lot of military outposts have claimed UFO sightings. Nuclear power plants have claimed nuclear sightings. There have been weird pictures from the moon and Mars and by the sun and stuff like that. Again, some of it could be just, we're seeing things that aren't there, or it could be something that's there. And because of the Roswell event in 1948, when the government covered up what they thought came up with stupid story, and they originally said it was aliens, but then say it wasn't, made people start thinking, they might be lying about something. So aliens is number 2 because it is such a, again, it's another one of those things that everyone knows what aliens are, and not just because of what happened in the real world, but because it is a staple in science fiction. There's evil aliens, good aliens, aliens that look like us, aliens that don't look like us. TV shows, Star Trek, all that stuff has aliens and stuff in it. So aliens in outer space and all that stuff is huge. And again, people are saying the same things. Are we all having the same sort of thing? They're describing the abductions the same, and they're different parts of the world, over here, and they're describing it the same. They're describing the ships the same. At the same time, could we be seeing top secret aircraft from other countries and our country itself that we can understand? UFO, unidentified flying object. Recently, the government said that there's a real possibility that UFOs exist. They released a bunch of photos, videos, and stories that says, there's something out there. So UFOs and aliens is one of those things that I also kind of believe also, because I think it's naive of us to believe that we are the only living beings in the entire galaxy. The galaxy's huge. There's millions upon billions upon trillions of planets. And again, not all life has to be exactly like us. Finally, number 1 is the most famous supernatural being of all time, based on a novel by Bram Stoker and harkening back to other things as well. And it's gotten to be so pop cultured, stuff like that. Everybody knows about vampires. Vampires is number 1. Not necessarily the best supernatural cryptid, but is the most popular. There's consistently every year vampire movies, vampire books, vampire comics, and people, claiming that vampires were real. Vlad the Impaler was a real person who did unthinkable things to certain people. Just insanity. And I think I'm going to just go with the easy dinner then. And because in the 1800s and 1760 and the early 1900s, stuff like that, people living in Bavaria and stuff like that, where these sort of things take place, weird things happen, dark stuff happens. And it spirals into this sort of big thing. And there's some real world indications that people do believe that there were vampires out there. There are people who actually prescribe to a vampire kind of religion where they drink blood, but not necessarily human blood, that sort of thing. But it's being a vampire is also like sort of kind of the epitome of an erotic sort of situation, because again, there's all different types of vampires, but the main one everybody looks at is suave, good-looking men or gorgeous, sexy females who have just a lust for blood. And how do they attack the blood? Usually at the neck, which is usually an erogenous zone for a lot of people. And there's also been other movies where they've been going down here or on the thighs and stuff like that, where it's a very kind of sexual sort of appearance, and they're suave and they're sexy and they're youthful and stuff like that. But that's just one aspect of it. There's other types of vampires. There's the creepy looking vampires. There's the monstrous ones. There's the ones that aren't quite as good looking. There's the ones that that sparkle in the sunlight. And then you have all the different things. Why would a stake in the heart kill them specifically, and nothing else to the heart would, but a wood stake does? Why do they not have the reflection in a mirror? Why does silver hurt them? Why does garlic hurt them? Do they turn into bats? Do they control people's minds? Do they turn into a mist? Do they sleep in coffins? There's all these different theories and weaknesses, and depending on the story you're trying to go with, you take one at a time and you use what utilize for you. The Twilight books, they couldn't have them not come, and also daylight kills them. But vampire in Twilight, they had to skew the rules a little bit because they needed to have the vampires to be out during the daytime so they don't die. So they figure out a way that they could survive like that. So it depends on what you need it for your story, what kind of weaknesses they have. Why would a cross be a deterrent for a vampire, but not a Star of David, which is another religious icon? I don't know. And as I said, vampires are a dime. I mean, it's one of the more popular costumes. Again, it's a whole sexual sort of identity. You can be sexy. You can have the teeth. It's an easy costume to make. And I'm talking about this when I do my costumes, but I have the perfect vampire outfit. Girlfriend I had in college, she was obsessed with vampires. So she liked when I chomped down on her neck. I didn't draw blood, but she had tons of hickeys there, tell you that much. And we went and we saw Interview with a Vampire when it came out in movie theaters. Our first date was watching Bram Stoker's Dracula, sort of thing. She was obsessed with vampires. And a lot of people are. And that's cool. That's fine. And as I said, they are an iconic being that started in a book, but there is some history behind it, and eternal life and the drinking of the blood and all the other aspects of the vampire has been piled on over the centuries, 1800s, 1900s, 2000s, that people have been rewriting vampire stories. Everybody has a vampire story. Stephen King has written a number of vampire stories. Tim Burton has done a vampire movie. John Carpenter has done a vampire movie. So vampires are a big deal, and that's why they are number one, because they are so synonymous with the world of supernatural. You say, and a lot of these are, you say vampires, people automatically know what you're talking about. They say aliens, they know you're talking about Bigfoot, they know you're talking about ghosts, you know you're talking about lake monsters, you say Loch Ness, they got you like that. Witches, zombies, werewolves, all that sort of stuff. They know this stuff. That's why it's so popular and so huge. And that's why those are taking the top spots, because those are the more popular ones than the ones I picked at the bottom half of this. And that's why they're where they are. Not quite as fun as I thought it was going to be, but I still enjoyed this episode. Tomorrow's is going to be interesting. Tomorrow is going to be it's going to be Friday, and it's 1 week to Halloween now. Tomorrow is going to be my Friday show. It'll be the top slashers in slasher movies. So we'll be talking about the actual slashers themselves, the Freddys, the Jasons, the Leatherfaces, the Mike Myers, the more recent ones, the stuff like that. We'll be talking about that. That could be kind of interesting of a discussion. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this one. And again, I think I probably should have moved dinosaurs up a little bit, but I have an interest in this, and I believe in some of this stuff. And the ones I said at the top of the list are the ones that are the more popular. That's why they're at the top of the list. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Continue enjoying it. 7 days to Halloween. Hope you got everything together. I need to really get my ass in gear for every other aspect of my life with Halloween. So I'm busy doing this stuff. Tomorrow, slashers, top slashers. Saturday and Sunday, we're doing TV stuff, the top Halloween specials on TV, top spooky series, and then we get a little bit more personal stuff at the beginning of next week. Thank you, and have a great day.